On this day in history, June 20th, 451, the Battle of Châlons occurs, where Flavius Aetius battles Attila the Hun. After the battle, which was inconclusive, Attila retreats, causing the Romans to interpret it as a victory. Included in the following is an excerpt from the 1944 edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, going over the history of the battle. The Battle of the Catalonian Plains. Fierce, manifold, huge, stubborn, without its like in history of times past. Priscus was fought between Attila and the Roman Aetius in 451. The Huns had crossed the Danube in the first quarter of the 5th century. Uldin, their leader, was driven back by the soldiers of Byzantium, but by 424 the Byzantine court was paying the Huns a tribute of 350 pounds of gold. Some 10 years later, Attila, nephew of a king who had brought the Huns to some rough unity of predatory purpose, became joint ruler with his brother. Attila, a typical Kalmuk in appearance, thereupon began a career of plunder. In another 10 years he had forced the Eastern Empire to multiply sixfold the annual tribute. In 6 more years he had become lord of the lands north of the Middle and Lower Danube, and wasted the northern Balkan country. He forbade his Huns and Germans subject to him to take service in the imperial armies. The Western Roman armies had long ceased to find their soldiers from within the frontiers. Therefore, Attila could cut off one of the main supplies of men. Aetius had been no enemy of the Huns, and had used them to make an end of the Burgundian kingdom about Worms, whence the Nibelungenlied. In 450, a good soldier, Marcian, became emperor of the East and refused to pay the Hunnic tribute. A few months earlier, a discontented Roman princess had given Attila a pretext for turning to that quarter of the world which he had not yet plundered. Justa Graecia Heronia, sister of the Emperor Valentinian III, had plotted with a lover to take the throne. The plot was discovered. Honoria was married to a respectable and harmless senator. Honoria boldly sent to Attila for help, with her ring to show from what quarter the message came. Attila took the ring to mean that Honoria would be his wife. The time was good for using this claim. Gaiseric, king of the Vandals, fearing an attack from the Visigoths in southwest Gaul, had asked for Attila's alliance. In 451, Attila led into Gaul a host of Huns, Alans, and tributary Germans. 2 parties were disputing the kingship of the Franks on the Rhine. One group joined the Huns, and thereby decided Attila's route. On April 7th, this host plundered Metz, and thence moved slowly towards Orleans. Aetius had not crossed the Alps in time to hold the Rhine, nor could he do much without Visigothic help. The fall of Orleans would leave the way open across the Loire to the Visigothic lands. Therefore, the Visigoths listened to Aetius' messengers. An army of Romans, that is, of Romanized Germans, and Visigoths marched to save Orleans. Legends of the prowess of a Christian bishop, the legend of St. Genevieve is of the same time, have clouded over the history of the attack upon Orleans. But the town was on the point of failing when Aetius and Theodoric, the Visigothic king, forced the Huns to retire. Attila took the road northwards to Troyes and collected his forces on the plains well fitted for his cavalry. Châlons has been named as the chosen battlefield, but the Campi Catalononci include most of Champagne. The best chroniclers speak of a certain Mauriac place. This was a moray west of Troyes, and there is a moray Saucine where bones, weapons, and gold ornaments have been found. Here, about 16 miles northwest of Troy, some scholars think must be the Mauriac place, and the tomb of Theodoric. On the night before the battle, those Franks who favored Aetius broke through to him, after a slaughter of 15,000 men. Before the day began, Attila took the voice of his augurs. The Huns would be beaten, a likely prophecy about a retreating tribal host, but the enemy leader would fall. Attila could get another army. The empire had not another Aetius, nor would anyone else be likely to keep together the Visigoths and the Romans. By delaying until 3 p.m., Attila planned to secure his retreat in the darkness. The chroniclers say that on one side of the field sloped towards a slight hill. For this hill the armies fought. In the place of honor on the Roman right were the Visigoths, on the left Aetius, and with him as a hostage Tharisamund, son of Theodoric. In the center, enclosed by more trusted troops, were the Alan auxiliaries of the Romans. Aetius hoped that the Huns might try to drive in the center, for Attila kept in the midst of his Huns and set the Ostrogoths and the Gippidae on the left. and on the right the lesser German allies. Here was the decision. Aetius seized the hill. His Alans were forced back, but now he could take the Huns on one flank, while on the other the Visigoths attacked. Thus the victory in the last great battle of Western Roman power was won by tactics which Hannibal had used at Cannae. The Huns expected another attack, since in the immense slaughter Theodoric had been killed, but Aetius was alive. Attila within his ring of wagons prepared for death, but Aetius feared a camp of desperate men whose strength was in their archery, nor was he willing to secure in Gaul a Visigothic predominance, against which the Huns might yet be his allies. He persuaded Thorismund to hasten to Toulouse, lest his brothers should take his inheritance. Attila escaped to ravage Italy in 452, and to die, or be murdered, in a drunken sleep in 453. Was this battle of the Mauriac Place one of the world's most decisive battles? The Huns showed nothing of the fruitfulness of the Germanic peoples who came within the empire, and their power could scarcely have survived for long the death of a king who was as rare as Saladin among the Kurds. A son of Attila and Honoria might have been another Aetius, if Attila's other sons had not put him to death. But the coming of the Huns was only an episode before the greater confusion of the Dark Ages, before the victory of Charles Martel, and the splendor and dominion of Charlemagne.